It's very hot and humid outside, and I'm sitting in here, and the air conditioning is so cold. I need a blanket. I feel like
Yes.
there's like no way around this situation
No,
of always needing a blanket.
we were on a boat today and it's a heat advisory tomorrow, right? But we're on the boat and it started raining. And on the way back, it was just like raining enough that it was definitely getting you wet and like it was cold. So the second we got home off the boat, I like took a hot shower and put sweatpants on.
Come to summer in Wisconsin, where even when it's hot, you're cold.
It's crazy.
It is.
It's crazy.
Yeah. The rain was kind of weird. Like Aaron and I were in Madison, like just running errands. He had to do a long run. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and we needed to go get a couple things. He broke like a thing on the air compressor or whatever. I don't know. I'm not into that. So, but I was like, man, it like looks and feels like it's gonna storm.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got home and like it did end up storming here. I don't know if that was the rain that you got on the boat, but we had like thunder and like the whole deal.
Yeah, there was definitely thunder. We had like pulled off to a little restaurant to like grab the kids some food and like wait out the bulk of the nastiness. Naturally, like between four adults, one would think like one of us would have checked the weather. But we didn't. We were like, these kids need to burn energy. Let's go.
What lake were you on?
Lake Wisconsin.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it was like Merrimack
Yeah.
area.
Yeah.
But yeah, we were all, I think, a little bit desperate for them to burn off some energy and for us to be able to like socialize in an area where they have sand and things.
Yeah.
It
Well,
was fun, even though it was a little chilly on the way back. It was fun.
that's good. Well, I'm gonna introduce the podcast quick here, and then we can get into our topic, and maybe we'll have some more stories of things. But welcome to Enneagram Adventure. This is Tana and I's podcast where we talk about life, growth, development, all through the lens of the Enneagram. And yeah, anything you want to add? Oh, we're both IQ9 certified coaches with that particular tool. So if you want to hit us up about that assessment, you know, please send us a DM or an email or any of those things.
Yeah. Only other disclaimer is that the Enneagram goes layers deeper than a traditional personality assessment you might be familiar with. So, like DISC, Myers-Briggs, StrengthsFinder, Working Genius, whatever flavor you've taken before, we all have. Enneagram goes layers deeper and it measures your core motivation rather than your behaviors. So, those other assessments I just mentioned are more surface level, measuring what you're doing. Enneagram goes layers deeper to understand why you are doing it or where it came from, said differently.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of things, yeah, that we talk about with the Enneagram and how the motivation was built is around this idea of like where it came from when you were a kid,
Mm-hmm.
where
Mm-hmm.
why you developed the pattern that you developed that ultimately became your Enneagram type or your personality, if you want to look at it that way.
Yeah.
So today we're going to kind of spin off of a little bit of what we talked about last week. And I did get a message from Maggie. So shout out to Maggie that she listened to the podcast, I think on her drive home today, and liked the apology topic. So thank you, Maggie, for listening. But we're going to do kind of a spin off of that. Is that the right way to say it? Would you call it a spin off?
Yeah.
The neck? Yeah, okay.
It's a
Where
version.
Yeah, where we're going to talk about being unapologetically yourself. Or you could think of this as your authentic self, your real self. There's lots of different ways of saying this, but I was thinking a lot about today the the presentation of self that we give to the world via social media, via who we are at work, things like that, versus who we really are and how maybe your Enneagram type that you've adopted is actually that front and isn't the real you.
I'm excited about this one because it does play a little bit off of Soul Child. Many episodes ago, we talked about Soul Child and that theory. So, do you explain this better than me? Can you explain a little bit about what that theory is? So, hopefully, if you're listening, you think of it through that lens a bit so you can try to relate. If you know your number, then what your soul child number might be and how that might relate to the authenticity piece of what we're talking about today.
Yeah. So the soul child theory is a theory within the Enneagram that goes to your growth number. And so the lines, if you're just like, I'll try to very quickly run through like the lines. So within the Enneagram, right, the symbol for it is a pointed star. And there are two numbers connected to your core number by those lines. So if you look at the symbol and you find your core number and then you trace the two lines that go down from your core number, one's your stress number, one's your growth number. And the idea is that the line that is connecting to your growth number is the soul child line, meaning that that number is who you were trending towards being as a small child before the world told you to be something else. That's like very high level and basic. Anything you want me to add to that?
No, I don't think so. Either the who the world may have told you to be, or if there was a traumatic experience that happened that caused you to change the way that you move through the world to keep you safe. I mean, it doesn't always have to be necessarily trauma either. I think it could be just a changing of circumstances collectively that might translate to a traumatic period in your life. But
It, it's a little bit when we talk about where the core motivation comes from and when we talk about that
mhm.
early childhood development phase, and that even in like how your family could have been great, but maybe your mom criticized something or was regularly criticized you for something and that caused you to shift. Maybe there was no quote unquote like trauma, right? But there was this pattern of behavior in a parent that steered you in a certain direction. So it wouldn't have to be like a huge thing, but we're all
Right.
impacted by the people who raised us. And if you think about it, like every child comes here with like sounds a little weird, but like empty, right? Like there's nothing yet. They haven't learned anything. They're just like a little soul that arrives on the planet in this human form. And the humans around them then teach them how to function in society and what's right and wrong and all of that. But they don't come knowing that stuff inherently. So, like, you do have to pick up, like, we picked this stuff up somewhere, right? It was the people around us.
Yep. If we didn't have a copyright issue, the song for this episode would be like Natasha Bedingfield. It's like a beginning of the Laguna Beach or something. It's
Oh,
like
I don't know.
it'll come to me. I'll sing it. Don't worry. I'll sing it.
But yeah, so I've been thinking about that a lot and like how to be closer to the most authentic version of myself, even if that's like messy, uncomfortable, not polished, sometimes unprofessional, all of those things.
I just thought of it. Release your inhibitions, feel the rain on you. That
Yeah,
one. That
yes,
one.
that one. Yeah.
No one else can feel it for you. That one.
Yes, yes. Dan had a song on the podcast for a while. Here we go. This is a special treat, guys.
Oh, it's like
Special
singing to my
treat.
millennial heart.
Okay, so if we think about it through the lines, through Soul Child,
Yep.
we'll try to go through all of them, give
Mm-hmm.
examples. Obviously, when we talk about 2 and 5, we're gonna have more specific examples, maybe 9. We both have 9s close in our life. We might be able to
Yeah.
think of specific examples there.
Mm-hmm.
But like if we just start with 1, Enneagram 1s, have this motivation that they need to be perfect. And if you move along the line to their growth number, they go to 7. And if you think about the 7, right, which actually goes perfectly with the lyrics that you just sang,
I was
right?
literally gonna say
Literally,
that. You
yeah.
stole it out of my brain. Like, it's right in there.
But if we think about 7s, right, they're like very spontaneous people, like need a lot of freedom in their life. On the high side, that it's like in this very like healthy, growth oriented, like adventurous way, but not in like a seeking escape way.
The
And that,
part in the song that says, like, we've been trained to not make mistakes. I just need
yes,
to add that in
yes,
there. But I
right?
can't live
So,
that.
yeah. So if you think about it, like so if you were, as a tiny kid, were like really adventurous and like getting into things all the time, not that like every little kid doesn't have a phase like that. This could apply to multiple soul child. But like if you think about it, right, it's just sort of seeking fun and like and playing a lot, things like that, sort of being rewarded for that. I've heard 7s talk about like kind of being rewarded. One of them talks about her dad saying that she was like his bright and shining light, and she felt like that was part of how she became a 7. Anyway, off topic of Soul Child, but like the somewhere somebody wanted them to rein it in, right? Somewhere along the lines as like a small child, they they got punished or criticized or something that shifted for them. I need to be perfect. Out of the I need to be spontaneous and adventurous to I need to be perfect. And so in this theory, the more authentic self would be that one that allows for the fun, that allows for the spontaneity.
And maybe, like, not allow, but kind of, like, revel in it a little bit. Like, let it all go.
And isn't embarrassed by it
Mm-hmm.
or
Ashamed.
yeah, celebrates it a little bit. Like the world isn't going to end because the thing wasn't perfect.
Yeah. Put the to-do list down and figure out what it is you want to do to have fun and just keep it trending in that direction. See what
Yeah,
happens.
I think it's an interesting line. There's a 7 that I know that very much lives their life very freely, travels all the time, runs their own business, but still has this is the stress line. So this is going a little bit backwards, but still has this mask of perfectionism that they want to present to the world. And it's just like that line is like very interesting. Every line is interesting, but this one is like a very interesting push pull of the way that it goes both ways. Like, so
Yep.
anyway, to keep going on this though, so if we look at 7s, then the 7s growth line goes to 5. So in that soul child theory, if you think about the heart of a 5 or like the sort of internal thing of a 5, it would be the quiet, studious, keeps to themselves, thinker, very into that sort of heady, knowledgeable thing, right? And sometimes you hear 5s. My story came to 5. I fully subscribe to the soul child. So my 5 came from a different angle. But like when we think about if someone was trending that way as a small child, they probably loved to be alone, right? They probably had that felt fun for them. They probably loved stories, learning things, highly, highly curious. If you think about how a 5 as a small child might make that move towards 7 and like lose that authenticity or whatever, it could be like, oh, you're no fun, right? Like somebody said there was somebody who made their kind of way of being in the world less fun, like criticized them for it, or trying to think of like ways that could have not been safe for them, right? Maybe there wasn't like a place for them to have that energy, right? Where it became safer for them to be more extroverted, to be more outgoing, to be on the move all the time.
Yeah. I think of the sevens that I know, and it's really interesting. I know a seven that has definitely experienced some trauma in his life, and I would be very curious to have him on. He is married to my sixth cousin. I would still like, he does studious type thing. Like, he's a reader. Like, he has all kinds of information. He's like got like five brain energy, but he's just like so positive all the time. And like, so he is such a seven. Like, he is
Yeah.
such a seven. But I would be really curious to kind of see how that feels for him, or when it changed,
Yeah.
because I do see elements of him. Like, we were on a family vacation like years and years and years ago, and he had no issue just like reading a book next to the pool. And this was like before children. So we were all obnoxious 20 something or 30 something vacation goers that had plenty of alcohol in our systems. And he was just like super fine reading a book, like
And
chilling.
yeah. And that's what's so interesting about the growth line or this version of authentic self.
Hmm.
And even if you don't subscribe to soul child, because some people are like, I don't think that's true for me. I think I kind of have always been this way. I don't think soul child is true for me. Great. It doesn't have to be true for you. But even then, in that moment, right, like that is a sign of the growth line or the ability to lean into that version of yourself and not have to hold up the mask of being like the always fun one, the life of the party, right?
We should have those two on, the 6 and 7 married couple. That would be an interesting one to talk about.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so
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 5.
5 goes to 8 on the in the on that line on the growth line, and in the soul
Hmm.
child theory it's way way back in the archive, but there's a whole episode where I fully unpack how this is true for me if you want to go dig that up. But I will just like try to keep it very brief in that it I believe it's 100% true for me. I think that as a child I was pretty bold. There was maybe a touch of 7 energy in there, you could say, but I think 7s and 8s as children, there could be some similarities. I was always on the move, constantly doing like big things. I remember, was climbing all over things all the time. I fell off of a stool at my grandma's house, broke my arm when I was 2, right? So a bit of like a bold, wild child, which is like how I think of 8s as children, right? There's like a boldness to them, like courageousness, kind of putting themselves out there. And was a significant amount of chaos and trauma in my life growing up, particularly in those early years. and it became unsafe for me to continue to show up in that way. There was literally safety in hiding and being quiet, which then pushed that, what we just talked about with 5, right? The like going and hiding in a book, going and, you know, trying to like, be unheard, all of those sorts of things, which lend themselves to the 5. And when we talk about this shift, it does come down to the idea of like safety will always win, especially when you're making unconscious choices as a small child. And this wasn't like a conscious choice for me to make. It was like, oh, like I, like I'm better off if like nobody realizes I'm here. Yeah. So,
Yeah, that's interesting.
but my most authentic self is in like bringing bringing voice, right? The even having this
Right.
podcast or like sharing ideas and things like that feels more authentic. It's and more
Mm-hmm.
externalized feels more authentic to me than what I bury in the 5-ness.
Yep. Unapologetic you is like ready to vocalize all of those things that you know and learn and
Right. Or just say anything at all.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. So 8 though moves to 2.
Mm-hmm.
So the growth, it's interesting, because the 8 is your stress number. But if you think about a little 2 out there soaking up emotions of the people around them and wanting to take care of or be helpful to their family in the way that a small child could, right? And likely getting punished for that. Or having really big feelings and those feelings being expressed were not okay. That made you weak, or that made you this, or that made you that, right? Whatever it was that was
Mm-hmm.
said to you. And so you decided you needed to be strong and vulnerability wasn't okay.
It's interesting because most eights I know don't lose that kind of like drive of like loyalty in the relationship and kind of that tie. What they lose is the warmth.
Yeah. Well, and it's it's not just the warmth, it's the like acknowledgement of the feeling.
Yes, I think so. My eight husband is described as when he was a kid, while he was very wild, he he has a little brother, and when they were little, he used to call him Buddy. Like like for the longest, like forever it was Buddy. So his little brother called him Buddy, and it was like this very strong relationship. And my husband was very like, he wasn't like, you're annoying. He was like, I want to like care for you and play with you and do all of these things. And then like that shifted at some point. He doesn't really remember like a time or a thing. But what I can say is having like, because I am told that my oldest and my youngest are very much like them. So my oldest is like my husband and my youngest is like my brother-in-law. And what I can see is my oldest cares very, very deeply when attention is given to the younger sibling, and there's this strong desire of comparison with my oldest, who I believe is a 3, not an 8, by the way. It's like, what can I do? Because I like, there's this comparison that I'm really struggling with, that he sees something in his younger brother that he doesn't see in himself.
Interesting.
So my 8 husband I could completely see is when he is unapologetically him, is very too.
Yeah.
Very vulnerable, very in tune with feeling, talking about how an event made him feel.
Right. Letting that
There's
in.
there's glimmers, guys.
Yeah.
There's little moments.
I was thinking also about a couple of eights that I know who survived really horrendous upbringings, like
Mm.
truly traumatic upbringings, and how that forced them into this place of there is no choice but to be strong and put together because in some cases, like, I don't want to say literally life and death, but kind of like I got to make sure I have like a place to sleep tonight kind of trauma. That doesn't leave a whole lot of room for processing emotions or thinking about that. That's like, I got to put up
Basic
this big,
survival.
yeah, I got to put up this front to survive. And
Hmm.
there are a couple of eights that I know that have similar kind of upbringings that sort of led to that place. And then as soon as they were old enough, they both went into the military. So,
Interesting.
which also just reinforces a lot of the eight
Yeah.
things. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Like, I think my husband has been an 8 for a long time, but I think his profession has really put the proverbial 8 icing on that 8
Yeah.
cake.
Yes.
You're comfortable
Um
here with lack of emotion? Got it. Great.
yes. Great. Let's just make that your whole
Let's
personality,
just
literally
triple down
through
on
your
that.
career and everything. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um okay, but let's talk about so
Yeah.
2 on the soul
Mm-hmm.
on the growth line goes to 4.
Yes. I would say that when I am unapologetically myself, I am funny. I am talking about how things make me feel without embarrassment or shame because, like, sometimes the emotion is so overwhelming that is really, really big to me. So it's talking about those things. It's like I have a kind of funny story about this yesterday. Yesterday, I have this person on my social media that shows up, and I text my two best friends from high school, and I'm like, "Oh my God, like, how is this?" I take a screenshot, and I'm like, "How is this mom have her kids, her two sons, in white? I think I have less white in my wardrobe than I have seen these children pictured in white, and they're two boys." And I'm like, what if I what am I doing wrong? My kids are dirty 100% of the time. And they one of them chats back and she's like, "Your parenting aesthetics are hilariously different." And I said, "I have never resonated with anything more in my entire life. My child, earlier that day, one of them went to T-ball with his shorts on backwards because it matched his backwards hat, while my other child was watching the entire game from a tree, like up in a tree somewhere, like shouting at me the whole time, like, nah, every 10 minutes, like changed a position. I'm like, that's great. Don't fall.
Backwards hat and backwards shorts.
Obviously.
It's like total throwback to me to like crisscross the the kid rappers. What was that? That must have been the
Yes.
90s, right?
Yes.
Yes, they
Yes.
wore all their clothes backwards. They were so cool.
Yep. Yep. So it's that I don't care. It's yeah, like I'm messy, I'm chaotic, I don't have it all together. And it's easier for me to share that with people that I am closest with or have been close to for a very long time because I know they're not going to abandon me for being that version of myself. But it is that. It's the I overshare. It feels authentic to me to overshare. It feels authentic to me to have somebody talk about their deep dark secrets and me be like, "I hear you. Your feelings are valid." Like all of those really vulnerable, high feeling things are like the truest version of myself. So how that translates, that's very for where feelings are an environment that feels homey, that feels like you can do, be, feel whatever you want, whenever you want to, and for how long you want to. So all of that tracks very easily for me. So yeah, I think I can like thinking about it, like if I completely zoom out, I when I am that level of comfortable, the cortisol level in my body just goes way down, which is interesting because like emotions are heightened and like all of those things are coming out, but it feels like my most authentic.
And it's like the least performative.
Yeah, it's easy.
Yeah. I sometimes, when I teach the Enneagram in groups, I sometimes talk about the move on that line as being like flow state because it just works. And there, you don't have to be something you're not. Like when, I think about it for me and not to go backwards because we won't, we've almost made it all the way around, but we got to keep going. But like, I just think about that of like, I don't worry about what I'm going to say next or what the person thinks of me or what, right? Like all of that goes away when I'm able to get to that place. Do you think it feels that way for you?
100%. 100%. That's why, like, getting into, like, before we recorded last Friday, it was gorgeous. We go for a run, we grab coffee, we're talking the whole time. That is flow state for me, where I feel like super safe. Same thing. Like, if I am at one of my girlfriend's houses and I'm like, here's the shitty mom thing that I did this week. Can you believe it? That's when it feels most authentic.
Yeah. I just thought of a thing, and this is a bit of a rabbit hole. And we talked about it last week in the, right? In the when you're your most authentic self, like your people will accept you. And if you offend someone and they leave by like your authentic self, like it's not your person.
Yeah.
But I was just thinking as we were talking about that, how I know when I've like I'm in that state, everything's really good. But if I say something and I know that I've triggered the other person, like where they don't accept it, where it's like now whatever I said crossed a line for them, even if it was like zero intent, innocent from me, whatever, like that, seeing that in someone else will send me straight back to like silence, go back to like the fiveness, put the wall back up, be more careful, think before you speak, right? Like all of that.
But this goes back to what was it? I think it was 2 podcasts ago. And it was like, what would it be like if we just all tried to understand each other a little bit more? Because you and I had an interaction with somebody not that long ago where you and I were like debating a topic, I think, is how
Yes.
it went. And then the next day, that person, like, I again was in a debate with that person. And then they were like kind of smirking at me. And I was like, is this funny? And they were like, no, I just love working with you and Holly because you could just have the conversation. Like, yeah, Yeah.
There's no need to like not have the full conversation as long as you can set aside your own ego and the need to win, right? When the debate is in the service of getting to the best outcome and not who's going to win, then yeah, like let's just have the conversation. But I'm out if like we think there's got to be a winner and a loser. Like I'm not interested.
It's too much pressure for me. I took debate in college. It was very stressful. And
It would be
I,
funny. We don't do it
but
on
you
this
know what?
podcast. Just this is a rabbit hole and maybe like for the future, maybe if somebody like weighs in and is like, yeah, that would be entertaining to me. Maybe we should pick some topics that we debate. That could be
My God,
entertaining.
that could be entertaining.
Okay,
But
anyway,
it needs to be, I pick pop culture.
I'm fucked then because I don't know enough about pop culture.
Pick Summer House, season 10. No, what I was going to say though is like the people for me though that feel safest, this isn't a complete rabbit hole, it's slightly on topic. I've gotten to know who they are unapologetically. So then we have this like understanding that's based on like now I can tell when you're not being your authentic self and when you're being your authentic self. That's at least how I feel about all of the like very close people that I have in my life is like I've learned what it looks like, what it sounds like when you are in flow state. If I see you acting out of that in a way that doesn't impact my relationship with you, I'm less concerned. However, if you're being a little turkey and you're being out of flow state with me, I'll be like, what's what's the vibe? What's going on here?
This is true. This is true. And sometimes I'm just really exhausted by my life.
Yeah, I'll literally take one step near you and I'm like, whoa.
And I'll just be like, I'm so tired. I can't. I can't.
Be like, okay.
Um, that's like a different. That's like not five. Well, maybe it's five. I don't know. It just like I'm sure everybody's hit that point too, right? Where they're like, I got nothing for anybody today. Okay, so to keep going though, 4 goes to 1
Yes.
on that growth line. And the way that that can, if I think about that, it's sort of like when we were talking about, you know, a 7 moving on the line to 1 and how that could happen. I think it's almost like opposite-ish, right? So if there's a little kid and they're very particular and they like things just a certain way from a
Mhm.
very young age, and they have a parent or a someone who is pushing on them to like not worry about it, right? Like it doesn't need to be that way, or I don't have like the most
You need to
perfect
be more
example.
flexible.
Right, you need
Yeah.
to be more whatever it is. That could lend itself in the direction of like choosing to be a 4.
I
Uh
have all kinds of examples like that. My youngest child needs everything a very specific way before bedtime, a very specific way. Like a pull up tilted in front of the nightlight. So therefore his body doesn't make shadows on his wall that freak him out. Like down to that.
yeah.
We have created many a tool to try to break this, including a chart. It's like like just give him a little bit of power and being able to like cross it off. No. Like there's a decorative baseball bat with his name, like a wooden baseball bat with his name on it. And I got these two like really cute little like clear hangers for it to like have it up. He won't have it up. He says it scares him. I'm like, okay. So I put it in the closet. I'm like, you're sleeping. I'm not gonna fuck with the feng shui here.
Nope. We'll
I
just
don't
leave it
care.
alone. Yeah.
We are gonna leave that right where it is.
Or it could have been a I mean, if from a trauma perspective, if I think about like a little one who's very particular and I I experience ones as being like also very like grounded people generally. Like, you know what I mean? Like they have like they tend to have like a strong set of beliefs. But I imagine if the one is getting pushed towards four, maybe there was like something that like rocked that sort of stable foundation for them in terms of like a trauma experience. Again, I make it up, right? Like maybe it was a divorce early in life or a big upset somehow in the family dynamics that caused that sort of stability and that particularness to like not be possible, which could drive towards that four behavior of you have to be really flexible and we're just going to go with the flow and like however your parents parented through that. Or maybe they really reinforced your feelings. I don't know. I make it up. I don't have the best
Yeah.
examples. So if you're a four, or I mean, if you're a one and you have soul child thought kind of experience or whatever, would love to hear from you. Okay, so we have to do 3, 6, 9.
Yeah.
And they're the three numbers that are like the kind of triangle in the middle of the 9-pointed star. So I guess it would make sense to start with 3.
Yeah, we can do 3.
So threes would have, in the soul child theory, would have been little sixes. So threes go to 6 on the growth line. And that move towards 6 on the growth line for a 3 is like slowing down, thinking through, planning more. Yeah, having that element of preparedness versus just the being so action oriented, go all the time. It might also be, now I don't know a lot of sixes who like to sit in their feelings, but they will at least talk about them. So it
Right.
could also be the willingness to sort of acknowledge the feeling and not just bury it.
Yeah. I can't think of it's more for 6, I think. My thought is more for 6.
I was gonna say for that particular move, I guess I haven't asked any of the threes in my life if they believe that they started as little sixes. But if you think about like a little six and wanting to be prepared, wanting to take care of the people around them, that shift for them to become the competitive achiever would have to be either born out of recognition, right? Which is, I've heard several threes talk about that, right? Where as a kid, when they achieved something, it was super celebrated. So they were just like, oh, like if I keep doing this, I get celebrated. And if that's like what's driving you, right, is like, oh, I get celebrated every time this happens, that becomes like the pattern that you work in. So it could shift you out of that sort of careful, thoughtful way of being into the like, go, 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 achieve as much as you can sort of
Yep.
mentality. Okay. So sixes move to 9
Yes.
as their growth number. And I think that if they were like a little 9, I'm guessing that the preparedness came from learning hard lessons in some way. 9s tend to be very laid back, go with the flow, very objective, see all sides, maybe not the most organized. And if, as like, imagine, your 5-year-old self, you forgot your lunch bag at home and maybe your caregiver was like, well, I guess you won't have lunch today then. You weren't prepared. Like, I need you to take care of your things or whatever that speech might have been. I could imagine an experience like that would be enough to take a little kid and make them be like, I can never forget my things ever again. I need to be prepared. right? Or like
Yeah.
yeah.
Or for them, I could see this in a six I have in my life where I wasn't prepared for what happened to that person or that relationship. And could I have done something different or protected them in some way? Or could I have? So it's that like loyalty, like protect the people around me and keep them safe. That's the that's what I would anticipate the six that I'm close to saying. Because I remember her as a kid being very like disorganized, very go with the flow is what it is. We figure it out. It doesn't matter. But she had a really traumatic event happen in her life. She lost her brother at a very young age. He was only 21 and I think sh- we were maybe 8 or 9.
Yeah. Yeah, something like that could be enough, right? If like you attached the idea of like I could have prevented. If I
Yes.
had just thought ahead, if I had just
Or if I could, like, I think she has a tattoo on her, like, that says one more day, where, like, had I known, I would have said, or like said something different or done something different or spent more time or whatever.
that could definitely trigger a major shift in a kid for
Hmm.
sure.
And she was still never, like, the most studious or never, like, prepared from that standpoint. It was more preparedness for, like, the people around her.
I've heard other sixes talk about that too, right? Like it was there's like a worry in them about the people around them. Like I've heard one six tell the
Hmm.
story. She was the youngest and she would stay awake until all of her older siblings got home from whatever they were doing
Sure.
because she was wanted to be sure they were home safe. So it is this kind of focus on it's an
Hmm.
outward focus. Okay. So 9 though, 9,
Yeah.
the soul child line or the growth line is to 3. I don't know if you see this in your sister. Aaron and I have never, I guess, really fully unpacked the soul child theory. One of these days we got to have him on. I was
Hmm.
thinking about that tonight. I was like, oh, maybe he should be on tonight, but that's organizing. That's a different level of organization I wasn't quite ready for. But it would be interesting to unpack that with him, right? Like that idea of were you really competitive
Hmm.
as a kid and pushed into the nineness by an event of some sort? Or were you just kind of always a 9 and that has always been sort of your growth line?
Hmm.
What I can say though about the authenticity and true self for him though is in the moments where he's being really authentic, he's not holding back like what's most important to him, but he's also doing really hard things. And it's in the service of a competitive action, right? Like he's currently training for Ironman Lake Placid, which is in a couple weeks here. And he's winding down. He's got a couple of big workouts left, but today was his last big, like 20-mile long run. And in this particular trait, like this is, whatever, I forget how many Ironmans he's done, a good number. But in this training block, he has intentionally sought out the harder options for these workouts to like so that he can go and have a great race versus being more go with the flow and like it'll be what it'll be and it's fine and blah blah blah. So I think that's a little bit of that growth line to 3 though, right? There's a part of that that's like not
Yeah.
shirking on the really hard stuff.
Yep. Yep. I would say that my sister, that's her. probably, and she would probably say this too, like biggest thing that she wishes she had more of. But hers is through this vein of like, it's easy to compare like that kind of competitive energy to like a sport, right?
Yes.
But she never liked sports, never wanted to participate in them, was always more individual in most things. Like she was really, really good at art. She is really, really good at art. The thing that I would say my best advice for her has always been like, just compete with yourself then. Like, what's the best version that you can possibly be? And I think now for her, she's doing some like work within
Right. That
herself to
you
kind
can
of
be.
try to, well, yeah, my sister's doing work as a 9, and it's more around this like what's right for her and being vocal about what she wants, needs, believes, all of these things. But she does have like the clothing stuff she was doing for a while. Like she has these big aspirations to like better the world in some form or fashion. It's just taking the time to dedicate and compete with herself enough to be able to go and do that. Because the second it gets hard, she's like, oh fuck. Like I don't have the energy for this.
Yeah, and that can be the competitive thing for the 9 is to
Mm-hmm.
embrace the hard, to like push through the hard,
Yeah.
sport or otherwise.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And there can be things in this too, when you think about it, where it's easier in a certain context or a certain part of your life. Just like you and I were talking about, like how flow state can feel more natural with certain people or in certain situations, right? Like the context of that, like you might find there are places where it's easier to push in. Like for Aaron, it's easier for him to like find that through like the training and the getting ready for a big race versus other parts of his life,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
So there are going to be like these sort of ebbs and flows, and context will matter and all of those things.
For sure. We made it.
We made it. We made it through all 9 numbers. It was semi-organized. We didn't go super deep on anything. I think we went a little deeper last week on the apology stuff, but point being, like, let's all be unapologetic about like our true selves. It doesn't mean be
Mhm.
like an asshole. I don't mean like,
No.
right? Like I hope everybody understands like the spirit of which this be your true self is intended. Being your true self is not permission to be a jerk. Being your true self is like putting down the mask.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. This was good. Do not
Okay.
forget to like, subscribe if you made it to the end of this, share with your friends, comment, engage with us. It really helps. Anytime you share one of the reels that you see on Instagram or anything like that, it does help us. So please engage with the content if possible.
Yeah. We will put all the links for all of the various socials in the show notes, just like always. So you can find us in all those places. Follow us on the podcast platforms of Spotify or Apple. Leave us a review on there as well. Also super helpful. And yeah, I think that's it.
So thanks, Holly.
All right, cool. Talk to you later, Tana.
Bye.